To understand the extreme violence of this story, we have to start with the victim's elevated societal standing. Jacob and his family were newly arrived immigrants in Canaan, but they carried immense wealth and highly visible religious privileges. That status offered zero protection for Jacob's daughter, Dinah. While venturing out to visit the local women, she was suddenly kidnapped and assaulted by Shechem. Shechem was a Hivite, a member of the local ruling class, and the prince of the territory. In the Bronze Age, you might expect a guilty prince to execute his victim to hide the crime. Shechem does the exact opposite. He decides he is in love with her. He dispatches his father, King Hamor, to formally negotiate a marriage contract with her family. When Jacob learns his daughter has been defiled, his reaction is total, paralyzing passivity. He sits in his camp and refuses to speak a single word until his sons return from tending cattle in the fields. When those sons arrive, they are seething with a quiet, boiling wrath. The stage is set for a collision, a wealthy local politician trying to purchase his way out of a felony, walking straight into a family plotting a lethal, systematic retaliation. Because Jacob refused to demand immediate justice, he created a severe leadership vacuum. His sons stepped directly into that void, forcing their vengeance through the polite, bureaucratic language of diplomacy. This animated flowchart maps out Hamor's proposed merger: complete societal integration, open trade rights, and unlimited dowries to smooth over the assault. But his proposal fails because it lacks any node for justice or a penalty for his son's kidnapping. Jacob's sons respond with deadpan deceit. They claim they would love to accept the deal, but intermarrying with an uncircumcised people would be a public relations nightmare for their religious brand. They add one non-negotiable contract writer. The alliance only moves forward if every single male in the city of Shechem undergoes mandatory genital surgery. Circumcision, the surgical removal of the foreskin, was a strict covenant requirement for Jacob's people. Blinded by greed and the prospect of acquiring Jacob's massive agricultural wealth, the Shechemite leadership readily agrees to these agonizing terms without once questioning the motive behind them. The Shechemites read a weaponized religious loophole as a standard bureaucratic hurdle. That miscalculation left the city's entire male population physically defenseless. This medical timeline tracks post-operative pain and mobility for adult men recovering with modern anesthetics. Notice how the line graph spikes sharply into a red critical zone exactly on day 3. That is when inflammation and fever peak, leaving the patient physically incapacitated. Light as the city hits maximum physical vulnerability, 2 of Dinah's brothers, Simeon and Levi, simply walk through the gates. They draw their swords against a military force that cannot even stand up to fight back. With zero resistance, the brothers systematically execute the local leadership, killing Hamor and Shechem with the edge of the sword, and pulled Dinah out of Shechem's house. What begins as a targeted extraction rapidly escalates. The rest of Jacob's sons arrive to strip the paralyzed city of its assets, methodically plundering every sheep, ox, and piece of wealth in the fields and homes. They don't stop at the livestock. The brothers take the remaining Shechemite wives and children captive, emptying the entire settlement of its population. The scale of the plunder reveals the brothers' true objective. They moved beyond a rescue to the total, opportunistic annihilation of an entire civilization. Simeon and Levi march back to Jacob's camp, dragging behind them the captive population and liquidated wealth of the city they just destroyed. Looking at this public relations gauge, you can see Jacob's immediate reaction. He ignores the moral horror of the massacre and instead complains about his approval rating. He whines his sons made him stink among locals. Jacob is terrified of the math. His family is a tiny fraction of the Canaanite tribes. Fearing a united retaliatory strike will wipe his household off the map. Simeon and Levi show zero remorse for the war crimes. They shut down their father's logistical complaints with a single cold justification. Should he deal with our sister as with an harlot? The original commentary on this text notes a stark theological reality. Grace does not run in the blood. Being born into a chosen, highly educated family with visible religious privileges offers no immunity to the primal, violent instincts of the human condition. In the end, polite societal diplomacy fails to mask human savagery. You must always read the fine print on a peace treaty, especially when the counteroffer demands physical modification.